Namaste, my friend. Just close your eyes and be comfortable and carefree. What it means? It simply means you are raising your awareness. What is the meaning of raising your awareness? You're moving the mind within instead of outside on the object, people, things, relations, and situations. And how we do it? By such a simple way. Looking at my eyes are closed gently, find out the most comfortable sitting pose, and then you look at mentally you are looking at the neck joint. So you feel it, and the feeling results into an experience of sensation, comfort, and steadiness. Same way, look at the shoulder joints, be there, feel the sensation, comfort, and steadiness. Now, look at the entire body. Mentally, you are looking, you are feeling, you are aware. There are many words we can use. Looking at the entire body from the top of the head to the toes, feeling the sensation, comfort, and steadiness. In that state of sensation and comfort, keep looking inside the forehead, and you find the unwanted, unwelcome thought enters into the mind. Any thought that enters into the mind, it is the mind. And what the intellect has chosen to do it? The intellect has decided to be aware of these thoughts. Do you see the difference between the mind and the intellect? So the intellect is aware of all those thoughts coming and going, but why the mind has so many unwanted, unwelcome thoughts? That is the problem. That is the impurity. That causes the delusion. That causes the frustration. So what we are doing in being carefree, your eyes are closed, you are comfortable, thoughts are coming and going, you are simply watching. That is what I said, lane number 1 of the mind, where the unwanted thoughts and unwelcome thoughts enters, and the lane number 2 is an observer, is a knower. It is not carried away by any thought or feeling or sensation. If that happens, your mind jumps to the lane 3. I'm talking of all the 3 lanes of the mind. What is the lane 3? Lane 3 is calmness. It is natural. It is peace. It is joy. You are still. If no thoughts is there, you are still looking. If thought comes and goes away, you are still looking and watching the thought has come and gone. So when this thought is associated with the feeling and then mess up with the lane 2, so then what happens? Suppose a thought of reaction is there, then what happens? The lane 1 and lane 2 becomes 1. What it means when it becomes 1? It simply means when you have a thought of a reaction, You become the reaction. And that is the ignorance, and that is the impurity. Let any thought comes. If you read on the newspaper that somebody getting killed, you simply read the paper and keep it aside. It does not affect. See many newspapers. So just think that whatever the thoughts are coming and going, they are simply, your mind is reading the newspaper. So we have done the 2 steps. Always remember. Will you follow these 2 steps? It takes hardly 5 minutes, at least 5 or 6 times during the day. Anyhow, we are doing the full practice, smaller, shorter version of the practice. So now, in that state of being carefree and comfortable, you start breathing through both the nostrils into the rib cage. Keep your mind focused inside the heart, for example, so that you can observe the expansion and contraction of the rib cage. Continue quick and short breath. I can understand, and you also understand now, that breathing also results into variety of experiences in and around the head and into the body. So don't get upset. Continue doing it. And stop this. Do not think. Move the mind on the head and the neck. Become aware and experience sensation, relaxation, and stillness. Move the mind on the right arm. We are still moving the mind within. Remember, so when the mind lives within, it is easy for us to change the mind. Move the mind on the left arm. Feel the sensation, relaxation, and stillness. Move the mind on the middle portion of the body, from the shoulder down to the rib cage up to the waist, includes the belly in the front and the spine at the back. Experience sensation, relaxation, and stillness. Move the mind on the right leg, sensation, relaxation, and stillness. Move the mind on the left leg, be there, feel, and experience sensation, relaxation, and stillness. The entire body, from the top of the head to the toes, experience sensation, relaxation, and stillness. I have been repeating in all my talks, listening and learning, followed by the contemplation and reflection, followed by the practice. So we are already into the practice. So by the mantra we will listen and learn, and we will follow the contemplation and reflection. Mentally say 3 times, Sarvesham Swastir Bhavatu, Sarvesham Swastir Bhavatu, Sarvesham Swastir Bhavatu. First we know the meaning before we contemplate and reflect. May there be happiness for all. Literal meaning. So what is contemplation? You start asking the question, why you are saying may there be happiness for all? Answer, happiness is our essential nature. Question, I do not experience peace and happiness 24/7. Answer, it is because the mind dictates over the intellect and do not reveal that happiness which is our essential nature. Okay, so what are those impurities? It may be the attachment, detachment, unwanted, unwelcome thoughts. No, but what should I do? So we should remind ourselves that we are of the nature of happiness, then we contemplate and reflect and practice. Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu, Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu, Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu. May there be peace for all. Question. Mind asks why you are seeking peace for all. Answer. Because the peace is the essential nature of all the living species on the earth and in the cosmos. How come? Master says we have to discover that peace in us first. When we discover the peace in first, we also discover and awaken to the peace in everyone. Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu, Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu, Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu. May there be completeness in all. What do you mean by completeness? If I feel I am complete in myself, can I get rid of the stress and the suffering? Because when you feel you are complete in yourself, your mind will not desire anything. And if the mind doesn't desire anything, it will not jump and run after any object outside in the world. It does not get attached to any near and the dear ones and the relations. In turn, it breaks the cycle of the stress and the suffering. Oh, that is the reason we have to live in awareness if the mind gets carried away by any thought pertaining to an object. Yes. So what happens when the mind leaves that sense of attachment, likes and dislikes? Then mind is pure. No, then what happens when the mind is pure? Mind is like a mirror. Then the real self shines in that mirror. And that is how we recognize it. Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu, Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu, Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu. May there be an auspiciousness for all. What it means, auspiciousness? We are not creating an auspicious moment. The entire cosmos and the universe is full of auspicious moments. No, but I don't experience. In the morning, sometime I get upset, sometime I get into anxiety and a reaction. It is because of the impurity of the mind. That is why we are contemplating and reflecting. I believe you are becoming clear. So once we remove the impurity of the mind, we discover existence is blessing and gracing all the time. all the time, 24/7. Even in deep sleep, we don't know whether we are breathing or not. We don't know whether we will become awake the next day. It is the existence is taking care of us. Because of that auspiciousness, my friend, that is the power of the Eastern wisdom. So we will continue our contemplation. So we will contemplate on who am I. Never forget the 6 characteristics of this real self. First, real self is eternal. Move the mind into the space all around. Move the mind and in the space in all directions, front, back, right, left, up, below. So while you are moving it, you are just discovering that everywhere there is a space. But mind cannot understand that infinite nature of the real self. But it can understand the real nature of the real self when the mind is pure, when it is not wandering and distracted, when it is not reacting. Second characteristic, the real self is the truth. What do you mean by the truth? It never changes. What it means by never changing identity, never changing aspect, never changing thing. It was the same in the past, it is the same in the present, it will remain the same in the future also. It is not an object. It is our consciousness. So 2 characteristics, always never forget. The real self is eternal. Real self is the truth. Because it is eternal in the truth, that is why it is all-pervading. All-pervading means it permeates every object and everything in the universe. It has no place where you can see. Any place is not devoid of that real self, that consciousness. That is why it cannot be an object to be seen by the sense organs. It has to be felt deep inside your heart. So if we have done the 4th characteristic, real self cannot be an object. Real self cannot be the doer and the experiencer. Who is the doer? It is the I thought in the mind. Also, you mean to say the real self is behind that I thought in the mind? Yes. And the last 6th characteristic, the real self never go any modification or change. It never takes the birth, so it never dies. It never becomes the old. It has nothing to do with it. That we are going to understand and discover. In that moment, simply look at the breath. Look at the breath, do nothing. I will recite the Om Shanti 3 times. You simply listen. Help the mind to dwell deep inside while listening to it. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Bring your mind on the right hand, feel. Your mind on the left hand, feel. Lift your both the palms, place it on your eyes. Open the eyes inside the palms. Experience that state of the calmness, relaxation, withdrawal of the mind. Bring your hands down, maintain your awareness. That awareness will help us to continue the journey. Today's lesson, let us start with a story about the Buddha, whose name was Siddhartha. So you see that whenever we find the anxiety, duality, anger, suffering, just move the mind within. That is the secret. So when you move the mind within, there is a storm outside your home and you are standing outside your home, what you do? You don't fight with the storm, do you? You just rush inside the home, close the door, and you sit inside your living room. You feel the calmness, and the storm continues outside. We are living a grand life with all kinds of pleasures, big house, big car, all kinds of luxuries. We may be surrounded by all kinds of luxuries, still we have a sense of unfulfillment. We feel as if there is no self-fulfillment. Once you recognize that you feel there is no self-fulfillment, the journey of the Eastern wisdom starts. That idea, that thought. And that is what happened to the Buddha. Buddha's father was a king, and the king heard from the astrologer about his son Buddha that there are two possibilities. Either he will become one of the greatest king ever lived on this earth, or he will become a monk. So father was very much worried. So if I say, you will understand it easily. The father created a sin city in his kingdom. And Buddha was quite young, so he put the Buddha into the sin city. What do you mean by the sin city? Where all kinds of pleasures are available. And he enjoyed all those pleasures. Until the mind asks the question, the world does not give me the peace and happiness, we don't become the seeker. And when you ask this question, 50% of your worries goes away. Why? The mind lives within. So one day it happened, Buddha was visiting the streets in the kingdom, and he saw the old man. Because he was so much involved into the sin and all kinds of the pleasure, he had never seen the old guy. 90 years old, spine was deformed, holding the stick in the hand, and the Buddha stopped the horse cart and asked the charioteer, "Hey, who is this?" So he said, "My master, your father has told me not to say anything about these things, but I cannot escape the truth. We all have to meet the same fate." And something happened deep inside Buddha. If that is what happens to everyone, enjoying all the pleasures, is there something beyond that pleasure? Let me first find out. The horse cart was moving, and he saw the one body was taken to the cremation ground. We burn the bodies, you are aware of that. And he said, "Who is this guy?" Prince, my master, he is dead. What do you mean by the death? He is no more. He cannot move his limbs because, the charioteer cannot explain. What? And the Buddha instantly thought of that, what kind of a pleasure then it is? If my body cannot move, that is the end of the journey. I am not interested in any kind of the pleasure. The mind has moved little deeper with me. And that inspired him to enter into the journey of the self-discovery. He met many masters. Ultimately, the last master, Alar Kalam. Why he met the many masters and why he left the earlier masters? Because those masters, they knew the primary steps. They did not know the deeper steps. It was the Alar Kalam. Alar Kalam took him, allowed him to sit under a Bodhi tree, and there he got an awakening. What is the takeaway from this? The lasting happiness is always within, it is not outside. We have to contemplate and reflect. When you contemplate and reflect, the mind that is running outside will start moving inside, or at least it stops. Inside yourself or outside. So where is the problem? We assume happiness comes from the external things. Our assumption is the impurity in the mind. We just assume. We don't know whether it is inside or outside. We just assume. We assume I'll eat pasta, I'll be happy. I will buy this car and I'll be happy. I will buy this. I was looking at the ad on the CNN, sleep number 1. Come on, what that cushion and the bed will do if you are not getting into sleep. And once you get into the sleep, whether you use sleep number 1 or you use the hard bed, you are sleeping, you are not aware of that. We are carried away by these attractive things in the world. So our assumptions causes the impurity. We become the consumer of objects, people and the relations, and the consumer consumes the world. And happiness is always behind it. Happiness is not there. Some short-term pleasure is there. And then what happens? The mind goes on repeating that pleasure again and again and again and again, and expecting a different result, which never comes in life. Eastern wisdom says, move inside. Move the mind inside. So when we move the mind inside, from inside we see that, any object or a person gives me the pleasure, it is short-lived, and after that it results into the pain. Same way we are caught up in the duality of pain and the pleasure, likes and dislikes, victory and the defeat. Makes life monotonous, habitual, mechanical, impulsive. What is all this? One word, emotional dependence. Mind dictates over the intellect. It doesn't allow the intellect to contemplate and think. So when it doesn't allow the mind contemplate and think, the mind returns to its own old habit. How many times you were upset with your son? Until today, maybe 100 times. Have you ever, when you start thinking, why I get upset, every time I get upset and after a few days I'm happy. So the mind is repetitive and the intellect is not allowed to think why I am repetitive. It is better not to say anything, not to get entangled into this issue. Then what happens? The intellect pushes the mind, and then first time you recognize animals are animal mind. That mind is animal mind. An animal mind is compared by the instincts for survival. But we have an intellect, ability to inquire, discern the truth, make conscious choices. We can evolve past animal tendencies, emotional dependence, intellectual fantasies. Possible. Choice is ours. So what Eastern wisdom is saying, operate from the intellect. Any thought comes to the mind, it should go through the screening. What does it mean by this screening? Screening by the cause and effect relationship. Screening for the sake of understanding. Screening also means that I raise doubt. If my mind says I am in stress, let me see whether I really have a stress or not. The moment you start thinking, you are invoking the intellect, and you are going to find the cause and effect. My son got me this stress. How it is possible? The intellect say how it is possible. It is happening because of the attachment, so you get rid of it. When? Instantly. If instantly, you are the highest seeker. If it takes time, if you have understood and then you do the practice, you are still a good seeker. The third level of the seeker, you carry those impressions for a couple of days, and after a few days you remember those principles and you do the practice, and then you change. Choose yourself which level of the seeker you are. So what happens by the contemplation and reflection? Through the intellect. Now we move from the reaction to reflection. We move from anxiety to auspiciousness. We move from the consumer to a contributor. That is the journey of Eastern wisdom. Now again the mind asking question, how can you move from reaction to reflection? Anytime you feel the impulsive thought, or any thought which contains a strong likes and dislikes, do nothing, just pause, watch, lane 1. That is the thought of the impulse, and lane 2 is the observer that we have done in the practice. Instantly, if you remember and recall instantly, you are the highest seeker. You remember and you started the contemplation, you are a higher seeker. So sometime it happens, sometime we miss, it's okay. So anytime we experience that reaction and the anxiety, we pause and ask ourselves, is this desire leading me to lasting happiness? Answer is no. Or is it fleeting gratification? Let us see how we can apply this Eastern wisdom in our daily life. Do you see the way I have reflected just now? Any pain, any duality, any strong likes and dislikes. Pause, recall the principle, let me understand what is this stress, suffering, reaction, anxiety. So you start inquiring, you start asking the question. You are telling to that thought that I don't believe you unless I inquire. 50% of your anxiety is gone, the rest 50% when you do the practice. This is what our masters are saying, that we can take over all the desires. We can master the mind. When we master the mind, we have already taken over the desires. And desires causing the impurities, the power lies within us. It is not outside. The power always lies within us. Any trigger of the likes and dislikes, any thought that is running after any object, relation, situation, seeking peace and happiness, is what this desire needs to be dropped, dissolved, and destroyed. First by thinking. Don't force it. First by thinking. Thinking means to contemplate. Oh, just find out what is the cause, why I am upset. My son said me something. Oh, saying those words cause you the misery. Really? So the more you contemplate and reflect. But again the next question comes that what are the main purpose behind all our desires? What is the cause of all these desires? We forget the ultimate cause behind that desire. What is the ultimate, what exactly main purpose behind all those desires? We are seeking security, we are seeking satisfaction, we are seeking happiness. Now just feel the opposite. So we want to have millions of desires because we are suffering from insecurity, a kind of a fear. We are suffering from dissatisfaction. We are suffering from unhappiness. So we have two options: to seek security, satisfaction, and happiness in the objects and the people and the relations outside. But any object, any person, any situation outside results into temporary happiness, not permanent happiness. And then we keep on running. So we have many desires all the time running. That's why the mind is constantly jumping here and there. That's why we have an unwanted, unwelcome thoughts. Are you getting it? You buy a car, new car. 1 week is enough. After 1 week, that very sense of the pleasure is gone. After a few months, we even forget to go to the car wash. New shirt. First day, good. Someone said, oh, you're wearing a good shirt. So another few days more. After that, we forget. Temporary nature. So whether the desires are fulfilled or it remains unfulfilled, the life continues the journey of unhappiness, insecurity, and dissatisfaction. That is why the Buddha ran away from the house. We need not to run away from the house. We need to understand logically. Even while living in the same house, we are completely unattached. What should we do? We should have a desire to know the real self. We should have a desire to desire for the inner growth in the self-realization. So we instantly become aware. Am I going to the mall just for a window shopping? Not required. You can still go to the mall, but keeping your mind free. I'm not going to buy anything. Let me have a walk. Where is the result? Result is that instantly you find there is a freedom from that sense of the desire which is clinging to all of us. The moment there is a sense of freedom from the desire because of the contemplation, reflection, and practice, there is a sense of inner peace and contentment in the joy. So we give more importance to this joy, contentment, and the inner peace. What happens then? We continue the journey. Journey never leaves us, and the time comes, we can transcend this mind. Why we have to mind has a limitation. Intellect has a limitation. The intellect can think, analyze, it can make a decision, and we can think and analyze and make a decision to continue the practice every day without fail. So gradually it reduces the unwanted, unwelcome thoughts, which causes the likes and dislikes, results into desire, and ultimately we start experiencing the sense of insecurity, dissatisfaction, etc. But when you say we have to contemplate and reflect with the intellect, yes. But because the intellect itself is limited, so it cannot give me the permanent peace and happiness. But yes, when this intellect is pure or the mind is pure, we can reflect the real self. That is why we have been continuing the journey of the Eastern wisdom, in order to awaken to our real nature, to bring an end to the suffering and living from the real self. There is a better way. Every day you sit and you start visualizing, you go through the story of the Buddha. It is our story. He became Buddha, we are still there. So when you recognize, contemplate and reflect that Buddha living in the sin city created by his father, what does it mean by the sin city? It has all kinds of pleasure, all kinds of sensual pleasure, drinks and whatnot. Because the Buddha was quite young, so he enjoyed all the pleasure. And then one day he came out of the sin city. He wanted to visit the kingdom of his father. And he saw the dead man. Dead man was taken to the cremation. An old man whose body was deformed because of his aging. He got caught. His attention was fixed. He could see that as if he has become an old guy at the age of 90 years. He saw himself as if he is the dead. And that overwhelms the mind. Intellect comes in the front, it starts thinking. And out of that thinking comes, what exactly, who am I? What is the purpose of my life? If not, what happens? We create an assumption that I will be happy by something present in the world outside. in that state, you find the state of the calmness. Instantly. If it doesn't happen, go for the practice. Contemplate again and again. So should we become totally free from the likes and dislikes? Understand. I like this monitor from where I'm talking to you. But liking that monitor does not create a kind of an attachment or an obsession. That liking is okay. That disliking is okay. But any likes and dislikes which causes anxiety, duality, attachment, that is not fair. Then what happens? There our intellect is paralyzed. Mind starts dictating, and we start living in ignorance with the impurities and the projection or the assumption. So look at the journey as far as, so this journey of the desire has millions of siblings. Strong likes and dislikes. You have strong likes and dislikes. Maybe you like someone, and then what happens? You're driving your car, so whatever you have liked, your mind returns to that likes and dislikes. It starts thinking. You are driving on your own and you don't notice it. Oh, then what? If I like something, I lose my awareness. So as you reach to your home after driving for an hour, that likes and dislikes was constantly moving into your mind, and we don't notice. When you start thinking over the likes and dislikes, now it has moved into the next step of attachment and detachment. And still it is in the thinking state. So when the mind has reached to a state of constant attachment and detachment by thinking, it takes the form of a desire. Desire means what? Desire means seeking peace and happiness outside from an object. So what the desire is saying, that if I get this object, I will be happy. So happiness and peace at the second place, but my mind starts craving for an object, craving for a relationship, craving for a situation. And then we have an obsession. And that obsession is known as the repeat desire. So I have already projected peace and happiness on those objects, people and the thing. I have to contemplate and reflect. I have not to allow any thought of likes and dislikes and attachment and detachment. Instantly your intellect takes over. Oh, let me understand. I have strong likes for this, strong dislikes. Oh, let me understand, and sit down and start thinking. It can be done anytime, anywhere. So you see, it has started the journey from likes and dislikes, and it continues in the mind, we don't notice, and then ultimately it results into attachment, and detachment is also a thought and a thinking, until it takes the form of a desire. So we get little pleasure, no doubt, and that short-term pleasure creates an obsession. It becomes a repeat desire. Now my mind does not want to reject that object and the people and the relations do not contain pleasure. That is what is known as the delusion. And once we are caught by this delusion, you know the result. That causes the anxiety, that causes the tension, that causes the depression, that causes the duality and a conflict. That makes my body feel extremely tired. That disturbs my sleep. That is why our master says, Manohi Devidham Proktam. Shuddham cha ashuddham evacha. Ashuddham kama sankalpam. Shuddham kama vivarjitam. Mind is of two types, the impure and the pure. The impure mind is caused by the desire and the projection, I just explained by many examples. And the pure mind is devoid of it. So what happens when it is devoid of mind? Becomes the cause of my freedom and bring an end to the suffering, because now mind has started following the right path. And that is why the second verse, which talks about Manev Manishyanam Karanam Bandha Mokshayu Bandhai Vishaya Sakta Muktai Nirvishayam Smratam. Mind is the cause of the suffering. Mind is the cause of the liberation, freedom, peace, happiness. Both options are available. But when the mind is guided and dictated by the strong likes and dislikes, we cannot make a right and a proper decision. That is the journey to the beautiful journey to the Eastern wisdom. What it takes to become a seeker, it does not even take a fraction of a second to become a seeker. But to hold on, to continue to remain as a seeker is a big challenge. One guy was running in the west direction. He was running very fast in order to search the sun early in the morning. And he was crying and loudly saying, "Where is the sun? I will find it today." He was exhausted. He was running in the direction of the west. So we always run in the west direction. That west direction is the world outside. A monk caught him, asked him to stop, and changed his direction. "Here is the sun. Why are you running?" He changed the direction from the west to the east in the morning. He saw the sun and he said, "I found it." It is so amazing. The journey of the self-discovery is like that. Once we are pinpointed, we are aware. We just turn the direction. That is the meaning of moving, not moving outside, because it will continue to have an insecurity, dissatisfaction, and unhappiness. So first, obviously, we move the mind inside, we discover that peace and happiness. Then what? Should we not live our family, social, and yes, we will live it. Now we are a contributor of the peace and happiness all the time. We are not a consumer, and the consumer is always defeated. So you live your life fully. You have that sense of understanding. You don't allow the mind to dictate the intellect. You have a clarity, you have a wisdom, you live into that awareness. It's a joy of conscious living. The time comes, we awaken to our real nature. Sarvesham swastir bhavatu. May there be happiness for all. Sarvesham shantir bhavatu. Sarvesham shantir bhavatu. Sarvesham shantir bhavatu. May there be peace for all. Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu. Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu. Sarvesham, let there be a completeness for all. So even if you think like this, contemplate, the mind is going to change. Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu. Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu. Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu. May there be an auspiciousness for all. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So, my friend, we did a practice. So follow this practice, remember this practice by heart, and you keep on doing this practice anytime, anywhere, whenever you have the time. At the same time, understand that how you have to take over the mind by an intellect, by an understanding, by thinking. When you say you are in anxiety, that is also a thought. Whenever you say you are in peace, that is also a thought. The mind does not allow us to think on the peace, about the peace. Instead, the moment you feel you are in anxiety, you have 1,000,000 thoughts pertaining to the anxiety, and it creates a chain reaction, and that causes the problem. That is what the summary of today's lesson. Or maybe not anxiety, hatred, duality, reaction, strong likes and dislikes are there. Not only thinking, contemplating deeper insight, but also doing the practice, and then we carry forward that thinking process.